Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I want to drop in with you this morning, this afternoon, this evening, or in the middle of the night. Some of you may not can sleep, and this is going to help put you to sleep. We're going to talk to you about Economics 101, a little macroeconomics for seventh grade. A few of you have missed out on some of our classes, and so I thought maybe I would drop in and give you a little tutorial over what you have missed. Shouldn't take long. Sit down, relax, take some notes, and enjoy yourself. In the economic systems that we have been discussing, there are three very important questions that every country must answer. You can see those questions right there on the screen. We have to ask what goods and services will be produced. What is it we're going to make? What is the what? If you have a lot of natural resources in your country, you have a lot of what that you can make, and you're really in a good place. Then we have to ask, how will the goods and services be produced? Are we going to use an individual technician or craftsman to make it? Or are we going to mass produce the items in order to get more of the what out to the people? And then who is going to consume it? Who's going to buy it? Who's going to use these services? As we ask and we look at the economic questions, we begin to determine what kind of system that we want to have. And we want to review some of those systems that are available today. So today you'll know who we are. That's us. And we're here to help you along as we are helping you with macroeconomics in seventh grade. So the way you answer these questions will determine what kind of an economic system that you will have. You are either a traditional economy, a command economy, a market economy, or a mixed economy. Now, we do know that there are no pure traditional command or market economies that exist in our world today. There are elements of each of these that are found in just about every economic system and just about every government. But we need to know what these forces are and these factors are so that we can recognize how they use and how they mix together to form a very stable economy. When you look at these economic decisions in the traditional way, if you have a traditional economics, the three questions are answered based on customs, traditions, and beliefs that they found in the past. In other words, you typically do what your parents did or what your culture did over and over and over again. And that's how you determine the kind of economic system you're going to have. That's how you determine what you're going to make, how you're going to make it, and in fact, who's going to consume it. A lot of traditional economies are based on a barter system of being able to trade goods and services for other goods and services, or you may trade goods for services. We have some elements of that are located in our own community right now. We have many people who will trade a good for a service, and no monetary value has been passed. Really, in an honest way, a traditional economy of trading that way is using people's skill sets, using their specialization, and how they have used their gifts to be able to bless other people. So it values humanity. It's not a bad plan, and it really does exist in a mixed system in all of the government structures that we have. The second is a command economy. You can see the long definition that is here. Basically, a command economy is that the government is in charge of every aspect of the economic process. They answer all the economic questions because they are centrally in power. So the central government answers what will be produced, how it's going to be produced, and by whom or who will consume these products. A command economy typically takes a devaluing of the incentive for mass production out of it because there's not an incentive to make money. There's not an incentive to value your life by producing more. So there's some issues that are there. And because of that, a command economy tends to have a government that is a little bit more harsh on its citizens. Now, we need some elements of command economy we'll see later. But in a command system, it tends to be a communist country with a socialist style of an economy. So you'll see how that plays out. Then you have a market. A market economy or free market, laissez-faire, to use the French term, is production and prices are determined by competition in the marketplace. In other words, private individuals and private business make the determinations over what's going to be produced, how it's going to be produced, and who is going to fulfill or buy those items. In a market economy, a big deal of that is private ownership. People have the ability to own, people have the ability to operate, people have the ability to start businesses and generate those businesses at their will and whim. Now, just like command economy, there's some problems with a totally free market economy. One of those is that there's a trust factor because buyer definitely has to beware. If you are in a free market economy where there are no government regulations, there are no rules, you have to concern yourself with health and safety and well-being, but also concern yourself with labor issues and labor laws because people could be misused or harmed in the production just simply for making a profit. Again, just like command traditional, there are no pure free market economies that are in the world today. So therefore, it leads to the issue of having a mixed economy. When a mixed economy comes in, it takes the best parts of all of these, determining on your government structure and how you want to answer those economic questions. So you could have a command economy that's mixed, leans a little bit more toward command with some market forces. Some people are allowed to practice business while the government still owns all property. Or you could have a free market or capitalist system. And in a capitalist system, private ownership is important. You can own your own businesses. You can own your own property. You can choose and make decisions based on market prices and competition. However, there can also be government regulation, like child labor laws, or like safety issues and safety factors that can be placed in on government regulations that can be placed upon businesses that operate for safety concerns and safety structures. So these economic decisions help form the basis over how our economies are going to structure. Well, with that, we have to understand that every economy deals with factors of production. Now, I've made these basic for you. We've talked about them in different terms in class, but basically there are 4 factors of production, 3 being very important. 1 is land, 2 is labor, then there's capital, and then remember the importance of entrepreneurs. Now, your land are issues like your natural resources. It's what the land is able to produce for you. In a very large country, as is ours in the United States, we have some vast and very plentiful natural resources, which means that we have the opportunity to be able to produce based on our natural resources. So we have resources that we can use. If we don't have all the resources we need, or a country doesn't, they have to trade for other countries. Sometimes that can put them at an economic disadvantage if they don't have all the economic or natural resources that they need. So therefore, they can be at a deficit. Other countries that have a great number of natural resources can have an absolute advantage when it comes to trading with other countries. What you want is a comparative advantage. You want to be able to trade based on your natural resources, that what you have and what another country has and what they both need. So you'd have a comparative advantage. Natural resources are very important in your economics and in your production. Then you have your issues of your labor. Now, labor has to do with human capital, your labor, your people, the people that are involved. In human capital, you need to know that you want an educated workforce. You want a well-trained workforce. You want a workforce that you're providing benefits for them, such as health care or life insurance for down the road, or other kinds of benefits. Some businesses even offer physical training that they may be able to have, or even childcare, which is a really good thing for some businesses to do. And so the labor is important to be able to provide for the education or an educated workforce, because that's going to contribute to what a company can have. And then finally, you have capital. Your capital goods are going to be things like your money, the finances that you're able to put into a business. It's your factories, it's your machinery, it's your technologies. And a business is going to want to make sure that these items are maintained. And so in a capital industry, if you're in putting capital, a business is going to maintain their businesses. They do not want a dilapidated building. They don't want dilapidated machinery because they want good output. An example that I like to use, and one you're going to want to refer back to, is one that I remember from a paper mill I knew in Cottonton, Alabama. This paper mill operates 2 times a year. They do what's called a shutdown. During that shutdown, their employees go on a vacation. Many of them a paid vacation. But the engineers that work for the company, they work very hard, almost around the clock during shutdown, where they will be doing and performing maintenance on the machinery. They will be updating technology. They will make sure that that plant will operate at the extreme efficiency that it can operate. When it operates at that efficiency, guess what? Their output, their production is greater throughout the year. So it's a good idea when it comes to the capital that they put in. And then finally, entrepreneurs. Now, we're not going to talk a lot about entrepreneurs in this section. You've done a lot of that in sixth grade, but we'll talk about it later. But entrepreneurs are not just those people that are free to start businesses. They're also people that are free to invest in businesses. And so entrepreneurs are essential. So these are our factors of production that play in our macroeconomics systems. Now, you may want to ask the question, what in the world is GDP and how in the world does it matter? You know what? GDP may be a big deal when it comes to economics. As you look at the gross domestic product, that is the GDP, you can see the big definition that's there, but let's talk in simple terms. The GDP is basically the value of goods and services produced in a country in 1 year. It is not really the money, but it is the market. It's what the value of their product is. It's what a country is producing. If the country is producing well, it's going to be the determination between prosperity or poverty. If it's a high GDP, you can expect prosperity. If it's a lower GDP, you could expect poverty to be there. So the GDP basically is a scorecard for the country's economy. You've heard the term GDP per capita. What that is the gross domestic product per individuals. It's an average of the production of the individuals in that community or in that country. And so it shows the GDP per capita, what the average person is producing or adding to the economy that is there. Some people will produce more, some less, so it is an average. But GDP is an important indicator over the prosperity or the poverty level in a country. It's interesting that there is a connection between literacy rate and GDP. If you notice, it typically goes this way. If you have a high literacy rate in a country, you typically have a higher GDP. And if you have a low literacy rate, you tend to have a lower GDP. There is a movement going on to encourage countries to increase their literacy rate. Literacy rate obviously is the number of people that are in the age category of 15 or above who can read or write in that society. If the literacy rate is high and people want to improve their GDP, they want to teach more people to read or write. How that goes back to labor. Did you see that? You want to educate your labor force. If you have a labor force that is highly educated, then you probably are going to produce more. If you have a literacy rate that is lower educated, their literacy rate is low, they're probably going to produce less. These two factors go together. It is an interesting trend that you can follow when it comes to economics. There's one more thing that I want you to see before we're done. It's called the scale of economic systems, because some of you ask, where do countries lie on this scale of economics? So here is a great image that I want you to notice. You can see where some countries are, where they lean as far as the pure planned economy, which would be a command economy, or a pure free market economy, which again, you notice this, there is no pure countries in the world when it comes to command or when it comes to free market. But you can see that mixed is in the middle. So you can notice exactly the direction that these countries are leaning. And you can get a pretty good sense of where things are. I hope that this quick video, I realize it's about 15 minutes, has not put you to sleep, but you're with me. It's a good review. And just kind of wrapping things up, I hope you do well on your economic study. I hope you'll do well in studying your terms, because vocabulary is absolutely essential.